Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryan Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Good. Be seated, please. Parameshvara. Om. Very good. Good. This one, good. Nice to see you all this morning, and welcome to you. Also, welcome to our many friends watching online. We continue our study of Chapter 7. We just began last week, Jnana Vijnana Yoga, and we'll get you reestablished in just a moment. We will begin with some recitation, starting with the first verse. As always, as I'm chanting, please read the translation so that when you repeat after me, you know what you're chanting. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha, Shri Bhagavanu Vacha, Maya Saktamana Partha, Maya Saktamana Partha, Yogam Yunjanmarashrayah, Yogam Yunjanmarashrayah, Asamshayam Samagramam, Asamshayam Samagramam, Yatha Jnasyasi Tachranu, Yatha Jnasyasi Tachranu, Jnanam Teham Savijnanam, Jnanam Teham Idam Vakshyamya Sheshataha, Idam Vakshyama Sheshataha, Yad Jnatva Neha Bhuyon Yad, Yad Jnatva Neha Bhuyon Yad, Jnatavyam Avashishyate, Jnatavyam Avashishyate, Manushyanam Sahasreshu, Manushyanam Sahasreshu, Kaschit Yatati Siddhaye, Kaschit Yatati Siddhaye, Yatatamapi Siddhanam, Yatatamapi Siddhanam, Kaschin Mam Veti Tattvataha, Kaschin Mam Veti Tattvataha, Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu, Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu, Kammano buddhirevacha, Kammano buddhirev, Ahankarahiti yamme, Ahankarahiti yamme, Bhinna prakritirashtadha, Bhinna prakritirashtadha, Apareyamitastvanyam, Apareyamitastvanyam, Prakritim vidhi me param, Prakritim vidhi me param, Jiva bhuta mahabaho, Jiva bhuta mahabaho, Yayedam dharyate jagata, Yayedam dharyate jagata, Etad yonini bhutani, Etad yonini bhut, Sarvanityupadharaya, Sarvanityupadharaya, Aham kritsnasya jagataha, Aham kritsnasya jagataha, Prabhava pralayasthatha, prabhava pralayastata mattah parataram nanyata mattah parataram nanya kinchirasti dhananjaya kinchirasti dhananjaya mayi sarvamidam protam mayi sarvamidam protam Sutre maniganahiva, sutre maniganahiva. Very good. We, in a previous class, we were discussing the fourth verse, and the verse, of course, it needs some introduction. Actually, a good introduction. Can we return to the board? On the board, we had some information which I think was very important. Here. Good, thank you. So first of all, just to remind you that as we enter the 7th chapter, we start a new subject matter, as you can see. So the subject matter predominant subject matter of chapters 1 through 6 was karma. Predominant subject matter of chapters 7 through 12 is bhakti. And for that reason, we now, in chapter 7, turn our attention towards Ishvara, towards God. And in explaining that, with this up on the board, let me explain that bottom statement, Sankhya. Sankhya, as you remember from our prior class, was an ancient school of thought, an ancient philosophy, which was parallel to the teachings of Vedanta, but different in some significant ways. And today we make a very clear distinction between Sankhya and Vedanta. They're two very distinct, different schools of thought. But at the time of Sri Krishna and Arjuna, at the time of the Mahabharata, these two schools of thought were not so distinct. They were kind of mixed up together. And for that reason, we find throughout the Mahabharata and in the Bhagavad Gita in particular, we find references to Sankhya, not surprisingly, since they weren't so different. And in particular, when the Mahabharata in general and Bhagavad Gita in particular, when they teach, we used the term in the last class, cosmology. Cosmology is a fancy Western term for the study of the universe, in particular, the study of the origin of the universe. When that particular topic comes, the origin of the universe, we find that the Mahabharata draws heavily upon the teachings of Sankhya, more so than Vedanta. And there's some significant differences between the cosmology of Sankhya and the cosmology of Vedanta. And we're not going to go into all the details. I would turn this into a philosophy class. That's not our interest. Our interest is to use the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita for the sake of our spiritual growth. So we won't go into the details, but it's important for you to get the big picture here. And the big picture is that Sankhya presents Sankhya literally means counting, and or a more scholarly term is enumeration. So Sankhya is considered the school of thought that teaches enumeration of 24 basic principles. And those 24 basic principles are summarized in a twofold way, Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha in Sankhya means consciousness. Prakriti in Sankhya means nature, everything else. And importantly, just to finish up our introduction from the last class, in Vedanta, and especially in chapter 13 of the Bhagavad Gita, what was called Prakriti in Sankhya, Sri Krishna will later call Ch.7, the field of experience. The world around us, everything we experience. Ch.7, field of experience. And what Sankhya calls Purusha, which is consciousness, Sri Krishna will later in chapter 13 call Kshetrajna, the knower of the field. of experience. Let me just put those two terms up on the board for you. They're important terms. The commentator, Madhusudana Saraswati, makes reference to these two terms. So I need some room here. So Purusha is Kshetra Jna. Jna means knower, and Kshetra literally means field, and in this context, field of experience. There is a Kshetra, field, and a Kshetrajna, the knower of the field, or in simple terms, there's a knower and known. This is where Vedanta begins. It's also where Sankhya begins. Knower and known. You are the knower. You, the conscious being, are the knower. And everything else is known to you. Kshetra. You are the Kshetrajna, knower. Everything else, I smile when I say that. I have to share with you this anecdote. I think when I first met Puja Swami Tadatmananda, 1981, he was talking about this particular topic. And I think his Tamilian accent was a little stronger in those days. So in his lecture, he was talking about knower and known. There is the knower and there is everything else. And I didn't understand what he meant. It took me a while to understand what is everything else. But I eventually got it. So there is a knower and known. Knower, kshetrajna, known, kshetra, you and everything else. And here in Sankhya, the term used is Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is knower. Prakriti is the known, the kshetra, everything else. Notice that in the last line here, we've already seen, this verse 4. Last line, bhinna prakriti ashtadha. This is Prakriti. Sri Krishna is describing his Prakriti, and Prakriti is the term used from Sankhya, the Sankhya to talk about Kshetra, the field of experience, all that is known. Verse 7.4, verse 4 in chapter 7 describes, Sri Krishna describes Prakriti as being eightfold. We'll talk about that in just a moment. In the very next verse, he's going to talk about Purusha, or Kshetrajna, consciousness. So next verse, we'll talk about the knower. This verse is talking about known. He says, Ashtadha Prakritihi, eightfold Prakriti, and just remember from the last verse, the eightfold Prakriti were the 5 elements, which are Bhumihi, earth, Apaha, water, Analaha, water, Vayuhu, air, and Kam, space. And then he added 3 more to these: Manas, mind, Buddhi, intellect, Ahankara, ego. And these 8 actually represent all 24 principles of Sankhya. In fact, commentators will map these 8 onto the 24 principles of Sankhya, and they map actually in different ways. So Shankara will map a little differently than Madhusudana Saraswati, who will map differently than others. We won't go through those details. So these 8 principles represent the 24 principles of Sankhya, which means 24 aspects of the world in which we live. And the world in which we live is made of 2 kinds of stuff. Some of the stuff is physical. Some of the stuff is not physical. Not physical stuff, like your mind, right? Your brain is a physical thing, 2.5 pounds of spongy matter. Your mind is not a physical thing. It most certainly exists. You experience it right now, just like you experience your body. So your mind is an example of a non-physical thing. In Sanskrit, we typically use the word sthula to refer to the physical, and sukshma to refer to the non-physical. Sukshma is often translated as subtle, but that term is a little indistinct, I think. Better to say that there is sthula, physical stuff, and there is sukshma, non-physical stuff, but still stuff. Mind is stuff, but non-physical stuff. The universe is made of these two kinds of stuff, physical stuff and non-physical stuff. The physical stuff Sri Krishna refers to here in terms of 5 elements. The non-physical stuff Sri Krishna refers to in terms of manas, mind, buddhi, intellect, and ahankara. Okay, so this is how he began. And remember, we're ready now to pick up the thread, but before we do, remember the context which we just chanted, those lovely verses where Sri Krishna says, I'm going to impart to you, Arjuna, knowledge of my true nature, Sri Krishna says. And Sri Krishna refers to himself many times in the Bhagavad Gita as the God of the universe, as the source of the cosmos. And that's the context now. So in the beginning of this chapter, Sri Krishna said, O Arjuna, listen, I'm going to teach you about my true nature as the source of the cosmos. And he begins with these 2 verses, verse 4, which we've just seen, and verse 5, because he says, I am the source of the universe. One more point before we continue. The universe consists, as I said, of physical stuff and non-physical stuff. Trick question. See if you get this. Anything else? So what exists is physical stuff and non-physical stuff. Anything else? Consciousness, the knower. Got it. Thank you. So physical stuff and non-physical stuff is the known, the kshetra, prakriti, as Sri Krishna says. But the universe also is full of conscious sentient beings like you and me. So consciousness is very much part of the universe. It's not a known. Consciousness exists as the knower. So the knower and known, the Purusha and Prakriti, kshetrajna, the term that Sri Krishna will use, and kshetra. So we've just finished this discussion about physical stuff, non-physical stuff, prakriti, the known world. In the next verse now, we talk about the knower, kshetrajna, which in Sankhya is called Purusha. Sri Krishna doesn't use the term Purusha here, but he will use it elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita. Let's pick up the thread. Apareyamitastvanyam, apareyamitastvanyam, prakritim vidhi me param, prakritim vidhi me param, jiva bhuta mahabaho, jiva bhuta mahabaho, yayedam dharyate jagata, yayedam dharyate jagata. So he says that we have to break all these words apart. Apareyam itaha. Itaha, other than apareyam. Apareyam means lower. So he's going to say here, I'll just give you the sneak preview, he's going to say that Sri Krishna has a twofold nature, a lower nature and a higher nature. The lower nature, that we use the word apara for lower and para for higher. They have other meanings as well. Here, his apara Prakriti, his lower nature, is what was described in a prior verse. In this verse, he's going to talk about his para Prakriti, his higher nature, which is Purusha, consciousness. He's going to say that. This is just to understand these words in the first half. So, aparayam itaha, other than my lower nature, we have to break all these words apart, but in addition to my lower nature, there is anyam prakritim, another nature. And here it's confusing because prakriti is used both in two senses. Prakriti is used in a technical sense, of like it's used in Sankhya, but here he's using prakriti in a general sense, and that's confusing. So we've just been discussing prakriti in this technical sense as the world of experience, kshetra, field of experience. But now he's using prakritim in a general sense, nature. When he speaks of my nature, now he's using prakritim in that general sense. And he says that my nature is twofold. There is an aparayam, a lower nature, which was talked about in a prior verse, but now anyam prakritim, another nature, which is param, higher. And that other nature, which is higher, is in the third line, jiva bhutam. It is in the nature, it constitutes jiva. Jiva literally means living thing, but that points to sentiency. So jiva literally means living thing, but in context, it means sentiency, sentient beings, awareful beings, conscious beings, consciousness. Consciousness, which we referred to before as Purusha, and we also referred to as Kshetrajna, the knower. So that param prakritim, that higher nature, which is jiva bhutam, which is consciousness. He tells Arjuna, vidhi, Arjuna, understand, me prakritim, my nature, me param prakritim, my higher nature, which is jiva bhutam, which is consciousness. Mahabaho, O Arjuna, understand my higher nature, which is consciousness. In the last line, yaya, by which idam jagat, this entire world, dharyate, is supported, meaning that the universe is made of, this is an important point, universe is made of stuff. Physical stuff, non-physical stuff. Tell me, is this physical stuff and non-physical stuff, is it just floating around randomly, random particles floating through the universe? Or does it exist in a highly intelligent manner? So stuff, by nature, is not intelligent. Stuff is stuff. Elements are stuff. Subtle elements, out of which your mind is made, is just stuff. The elements of your body are put together in a highly intelligent way. In the same way, the subtle elements that comprise your mind and intellect are put together in a highly intelligent way. So there's not only stuff, physical and subtle stuff in the universe, there's also intelligence. And it's this intelligence that holds the universe together. Dharyate literally means to hold or support. So this intelligence, consciousness, is the root cause for all that is intelligent. That consciousness as a root cause for anything that is orderly, anything that is put together intelligently. So it dharyate, it holds together the entire universe. Without intelligence, the universe would be random particles bouncing off of each other. Fortunately, that's not the case. You and I are not random particles. We are highly intelligent beings. That intelligence here is traced to consciousness. So with these two verses, verses 4 and 5, we have the overview of everything. In verse 4, the overview of the known, and verse 5, the overview of the knower. There's no other category, right? Knower or known. There's no other category. So in this way, Sri Krishna has given Arjuna and all of us the big picture. And remember the context is he is describing himself. And here he's describing himself as the source of the Prakriti, the lower nature, the world of physical and non-physical stuff. He says, I am the source. And he says also, I am the source of consciousness. So just see this very clearly before we go on. Sri Krishna says in these two verses, I am the source of the physical and non-physical stuff, which constitute the known world. Sri Krishna says, I am also the source of the consciousness, the knower. And how that happens to be true is what we're going to discuss in the next verse. Let's proceed. Etad yonini bhutani, sarvanityupadharaya, aham kritsnasya jagataha, prabhava pralayastata. Etad yonini bhutani sarvani, all, bhutani, all that exists. All that exists is etat yonini, has this as its source. Etat is the pronoun this. Yoni here means source, origin. Etat yonini, all that exists has this as a source. This what? Last two verses. This twofold nature of Sri Krishna. This twofold nature being the apara prakriti, the lower prakriti, the known, and the para prakriti, Sri Krishna's higher nature, consciousness, the knower. So everything, he says, all that exists has this as its origin. This what? This twofold nature of Sri Krishna as both the source of knower and known. Upadharaya, O Arjuna, you should understand this, you should ascertain it properly. And he says now, we're going to take a while to work on this one. Aham, Sri Krishna says, aham, I, jagataha, for the world, kritsnasya, for the entire world, aham, I am the prabhava, I am the origin, I am the creator, pralayaha tata, and also I am the pralayaha, the dissolution, the end. I'm the beginning and end. I'm the source and that into which the universe will resolve at the end of time. I am the creator and the destroyer, to use more mythological terms. Sri Krishna says, I am that. I am the creator and destroyer. I am the origin and end, the beginning and end. And we need to understand this. These are big. And he says it in the first person. He says, I am. But remember, Sri Krishna speaks in the Bhagavad Gita again and again, representing himself as the God of the cosmos, and we'll see why. In fact, we need to get into a very important discussion right now. In the course of this discussion, it will become clear why it is that Sri Krishna can say, I am the source of the universe. Remember, he's an avatara. We have to understand what an avatara, incarnation of God. We have to understand what is avatara. We'll get into a discussion which will end with avatara vada, a description of how we understand avatara, but we have to build up in stages to understand this topic of creation properly. Sri Krishna says, I am the source of the universe. In what sense? I am the source of the universe. I am the creator of the universe. In what sense is Sri Krishna the source or creator of the universe? I think we don't need this slide for a while. We'll come back to it later. So this is one of the most important topics we discuss in the process of studying the Bhagavad Gita. So this is an important class. What does it mean for Sri Krishna to be the source of the universe, creator of the universe? So to create the universe out of what? What did if Sri Krishna is the creator, out of what material did he create the universe? And I'm introducing actually a biblical doctrine, which in Latin is said creatio ex nihilo, creation out of nothing. And this is an official doctrine of at least for the Roman Catholic Church. I don't know about the other churches, but they say that God, at the beginning of time, created the universe out of nothing. And the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is it goes against reason. It goes against logic. It's something they believe. And of course, if you want to believe in things that are illogical, go ahead. But I would rather believe things that are reasonable. It's up to you. You can believe things that are unreasonable, or you can choose to believe things that are reasonable. They happen to accept a belief that is unreasonable. Creatio ex nihilo, creation out of nothing. But that doesn't work for me. I would much prefer to believe in something reasonable. So we dismiss that possibility. God created the universe out of nothing. We reject that. So in fact, in many places, especially in commentaries, they will give the example of a pot maker to represent the creation of the universe, which is to say that a pot maker makes pots out of clay. So with the material, clay, the pot maker makes pot. And this refers to two aspects involved in any creation. One aspect is the material, clay, and the other aspect is intelligence, pot maker. Pot maker has to know what pots are. Pot maker has to know how to make a pot. If you've ever seen they with this wheel, they throw a lump of clay down on the wheel, and with their fingers and thumbs, they rapidly bring up that form of a pot. It's really quite a skill, and amazing sometimes to watch that. So, in the pot maker example, that example shows two fundamental requirements for any creation: material and knowledge. The pot maker has the knowledge for the pot, the skill, the intelligence, and the pot maker gets the clay. Now, this is the first of several metaphors we're going to go through a series. And every metaphor, have you ever thought about this? Every metaphor is defective. Every example, we use the term drishtanta. Drishtanta is a technical term for metaphor. And the point I'm making here, every metaphor is defective because if it were perfect, it wouldn't be a metaphor, it would be the actual thing you're describing. So metaphors approximate the thing you're describing. But metaphor is not identical to what you're describing. A metaphor hints at it, points at it, which means every metaphor is incomplete. Every metaphor is defective. This is an important principle to understand. Every metaphor is defective. That means this pot maker metaphor has a defect. Can you figure out what the defect is? Why is God, Ishvara, unlike a pot maker? Well, the pot maker goes to the riverbank to get some clay. Where does God go, so to speak? At the beginning of time, where does he go for the material out of which to make the universe? Does he go to Best Buy? And to make it more significant, the Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad says, Sadeva Somya Idam Agra Asit. In the beginning, there was only God. There was nothing else. In the beginning, God, Ishvara, let me use the term Ishvara, or reality. That Ishvara or reality alone existed before the universe, which means there was nothing else but Ishvara, therefore no other source of material. This is the defect then with the pot maker example. The pot maker had the intelligence, the pot maker did not have the material and had to go outside for the material, but that is defective because our understanding of the source of the universe must possess both the knowledge for the universe as well as the material for the universe. You with me? Okay. In fact, let me put two more words up on the board. I think it'll be helpful. These are two more technical terms used frequently in Vedanta in terms of creation. And so for any act of creation, there are two principles required, as we've been discussing. You need material and you need intelligence or knowledge. So the pot maker himself possessed the knowledge, but needed external material. Now, I want to give you the Sanskrit terminology. Some of you know these terms, but these terms are frequently used in Vedanta, so let me give you the terms. There is an upadana karana, a material cause. Upadana karana, karana means cause. There is a material cause for the universe. There is also nimitta karana. Nimitta refers to the knowledge, the intelligence. The point we're making here is for any creation, these two factors are required. You require material, you require knowledge, you require an upadana karana, material cause. You require nimitta karana, an intelligence cause. And that's true for any creation. In the case of the pot maker himself possessed the knowledge but not the material, so therefore that is not. We understand Ishvara as the one that possesses, just to finish that line of thought, Ishvara in the Hindu worldview is one who possesses both material and knowledge. So with that in mind, let us, we'll stay with this. So we see the shortcoming of the pot maker metaphor, all metaphors being defective, so we introduce another metaphor. What is a new metaphor? Yatha urnanabihi srijate grinate cha. I'll explain that in just a moment. This comes from the Mundaka Upanishad. Another metaphor. Yatha, just as urna nabhi. Nabhi means nabhi. Belly button. Urna is wool. And urna nabhi is the Sanskrit term for this spider. So the spider produces wool, thread, silk, out of its nabhi, not literally nabhi, but out of its body. So yatha urna nabhi, just like a spider, srijate, creates its web, and grinate cha. Have you ever watched a spider eat its web? When filaments are damaged, I don't suppose you spend a lot of time watching spiders, but apparently the ancient rishis did watch spiders enough to know that when the web is damaged, the spider will go and eat the filament so it can recycle the material in its body. It makes sense. It's very efficient. So therefore, the spider spins out that web and then consumes it. And the Mundaka Upanishad presents this as a wonderful metaphor for Ishvara, who creates the universe, and then at the end of time, Ishvara withdraws that universe unto himself. So the Srishti Karta, the creator, and Upasamhara Karta, the so-called destroyer, the one who withdraws the universe unto himself at the end of time. We say destroyer. A side comment here. When we say Ishvara is creator and destroyer, that word destroyer, especially to a non-Hindu, sounds a little jarring. And the word destroyer is a little unfortunate because it covers up a very profound teaching. It's a very simplistic, oversimplified way of something very sophisticated. God doesn't just destroy the universe, but notice the language I use, withdrawing the universe unto himself at the end of time. Tell me, in English, what one word can you use for that concept, withdrawing the universe unto yourself at the end of time? We don't have a better English word. We're stuck with destroyer, but understand that destroyer tends to have a really negative image for non-Hindus who don't understand this particular teaching. You understand. Okay, so this spider metaphor is brilliant. God creates the universe out of himself, like the spider creates the web out of himself, and then like the spider eats his own web, at the end of time, God, Ishvara, withdraws the universe. What a great metaphor. Is it defective? All metaphors are defective. How is this metaphor defective? The spider is separate from his web. The spider can abandon his web. Have you ever seen a web without a spider? Of course. You know there was a spider, otherwise there wouldn't be a web. But many times a spider will make the web and then move on and make another web, I suppose. A spider is separate from its web, and a spider can abandon its web. And this is the defect of that metaphor. So our understanding of Ishvara is the world is non-separate from Ishvara, and certainly we don't have any idea that Ishvara can abandon the universe. That's not suggested in any scripture anywhere. So we see the defect in this metaphor. It serves a purpose in one way, It shows how the universe is created and withdrawn by Ishvara, like the web, but it's defective in that the spider's creation is separate from the spider. Ishvara's creation is non-separate from Ishvara. How can we understand that? Ishvara's creation is non-separate from Ishvara. Well, we can understand using another metaphor. Another metaphor that is also defective, but helpful. And that metaphor is dream. And let me introduce this metaphor by suggesting something called a lucid dream. A lucid dream is to have a dream and to know you're dreaming. You may or may not have had this experience, but many people have. You have a dream, and in your dream, you know you're dreaming. Okay, that's a lucid dream. And now I would like you to imagine that this, right now, is your lucid dream. Imagine that you dreamt getting up this morning. You dreamt getting in your car to come to the ashram, and now you are dreaming that you are sitting in this lecture hall listening to Swami Tadatmananda teach. So imagine that this is your lucid dream. This is important, an important way of introducing this dream drishtanta, the dream metaphor. And here's why. If this is your dream, where did it come from? It came from you. And when you wake up, where will all this go? It'll return to you. You, the dreamer, are the source of this lecture hall, and all of us within. We are all created by you, the dreamer, and when you wake up, we all go away. And where do we go? We return to you, the dreamer. In a dream, and a dream is a brilliant metaphor, defective, but brilliant because the dream world is born from you. The dream world is sustained by you. The dream world returns to you when you wake up. For your dream world, you are Brahma, creator. You are Vishnu, sustainer. You are Shiva, destroyer, for your dream creation. So it's quite a nice metaphor. So imagine right now this is your lucid dream, which means everything around us is created by you. For everything here to be created by you, you must be the source of both the material and the knowledge. Knowledge is the easy part, right? You have the knowledge to create this dream world. It's created, in fact, all dreams are created from your memories, right? In various ways, jumbled up memories perhaps, but based on all of your memories, all of your knowledge, all of your experiences, all of your dreams arise. So definitely for your dream world, for your dream creation, you, the dreamer, are the source of the knowledge. You are the nimitta karana, the intelligent cause for the creation of your dream world. Now, what are dream worlds made of? Right now, the lecture hall in which we are, here, we'll let everyone see stop pushing buttons here. The lecture hall in which we sit is made of what? If this is your lucid dream, this lecture hall is not made of plaster and wood. This lecture hall is made of your dream stuff, right? Dreams aren't made of physical things. Dreams are made of subtle stuff, your mind stuff. If this is your lucid dream, This lecture hall is made of your mind stuff. It's made of you. This chair I'm sitting in is made of you. This Swami sitting in the chair is made of what? If this is your lucid dream, everything you see around you is made of you. So in that way, you are not only the source of the knowledge because of which your dreams exist, you are the source of the material out of which your dream world is constructed. The real world is made of 5 elements. Your dream world is made of you. So you are both the upadana karana, the material cause, and the nimitta karana, the knowledge cause. You are both for your dream world. You with me so far? This is going to give me a few more minutes to finish this development. It's going to help you so much. Of course, you understand all of this is a metaphor for Ishvara. Just as you are the source of the intelligence and knowledge for your dream world. The intelligence and material for your dream world. In the same way, Ishvara is the source of both the intelligence and material for this universe in which we live. Now, step further. You, the dreamer, laying down in your bed, right? You sitting in this, in your chair, are like a projection of the dreamer. You are part of the dream. The you, seated in your chair in this lucid dream, you're part of the dream. The real creator of the dreamer is the one laying down in your bed at home, sound asleep, okay? So, what is the relationship between the dreamer laying in your bed? What is the relationship between the dreamer and the dream world? Relationship in the sense of location. Where does this dream world exist? This dream world exists within the dreamer. Allow me to say that again. Your lucid dream, this dream world exists within the dreamer, not separate from the dreamer. And this addresses the problem of the spider metaphor. Remember, in a spider metaphor, the creation was separate from the creator. But is a dream separate from a dreamer? No separation. The dream is within the dreamer. A spider can leave its web. Can a dreamer leave its dream? That doesn't make any sense. The dream can't exist independently of the dreamer. The dream exists within the dreamer. The universe exists within Ishvara. The universe is non-separate from Ishvara. Now we're ready to get to the final level of this Drishtanta. And that is, in addition to you, the dreamer, there is you, the dream character, sitting in your chair in this lucid dream. There are 2 kinds of you, right? There's you, the dreamer, laying in your bed. There's you, the projection of the dreamer. You project yourself into your dreams. Isn't it true? Usually we are a character in our own dreams. Not always, but most of the time. We project ourselves into our own dreams. So you sitting in your chair are a projection of you, the dreamer. This is your lucid dream. Remember the metaphor? Which means you know you're dreaming. Which means you know all of this is created by you. Suppose at this point in your lucid dream, you were to stand up and announce to us all that you are the creator of everything we see. Possible? If you, seated in your chair, are a projection of you, the dreamer, in this lucid dream, you could stand up and announce to all of us that you created all of this. You project yourself into your dream world, and there are two aspects of you. You laying in your bed, and you projected into the dream world. It'd be pretty dramatic if you stand up and say you created all of this. Dramatic exactly like it's dramatic in this chapter when Sri Krishna says, I created all of this. Do you see where this metaphor goes? Ishvara projects himself into the world as an avatara, in this case as Sri Krishna. Just as you project yourself into your dreams, into your dream worlds, Ishvara, the God of the cosmos, projects himself into the universe in the form of an avatara, in particular in the form of Sri Krishna. In that way, just like you, the dream you in your lucid dream, you can tell us that you are the creator of all this. That's how Sri Krishna can say, I am the creator of all this. Nice metaphor. So it explains two significant things. First, it explains how Ishvara is the source of both the material and knowledge for which the universe exists, and the universe, the creation, is non-separate from the creator. Like a dream is non-separate from a dreamer, the creation is non-separate from the creator. The second thing this metaphor shows is that Sri Krishna, as a projection of Ishvara into the universe, can say, I created all this. So this dream metaphor is very helpful. It explains a lot. Is it defective? Yeah, every metaphor is defective. What is a defect? It's kind of obvious. This isn't a dream. This isn't a dream. It's a metaphor to say that the world, and some people misunderstand this metaphor and they take it a little bit literally and they say the world is the dream of God. Sounds very nice, but it's mixing up the metaphor. Dream is a metaphor. It's very helpful, but this is not a dream. God, Ishvara, is not like a human being who sleeps at night. You sleep at night because you get tired. Ishvara gets tired? You get the point. So dream is a metaphor. Now, that's a lot, and it's very important, but it's crucial in that it allows us to understand what Sri Krishna is teaching here. When he says that aham, I, am the kritsnasya jagataha, for the entire world, I am the prabhava, the origin, and the pralaya, the ultimate destination, dissolution for the entire world. Just like you, the dreamer, are the source of your dream world, you, the dreamer, are the one unto whom the dream world will return when you wake up. And while the dream world exists, it exists inside you, non-separate from you. In the same way, the world is a projection of Ishvara. Notice I've switched language now. Instead of saying dream, we can say the world is a projection. The world is an emanation of Ishvara. But after the universe is projected or emanated, that universe remains non-separate from its creator. Just like a dream remains non-separate from the dreamer, the universe remains non-separate from its creator. And this universe, this creation, this projection can return then to Ishvara at the end of time, at the end of a kalpa. So you can understand very nicely what he means when he says, I am the creator and destroyer of the universe. And let's see this one more verse, because it'll take us to the final step of this discussion. Matta parataram nanyata, matta parataram nanyaka, kinchirasti dhananjaya, kinchirasti dhananjaya, mayi sarvamidam protam, mayi sarvamidam protam, sutre maniganahiva, sutre maniganahiva. Mattaha, compared to me, you have to jump around a little bit. Start with, you see that nanyat, na, anyat, na. Take that na and connect it in the second line to kinchit. Na kinchit, nothing. Nothing, asti, nothing exists. Anyat, nothing else exists. Na anyat asti, nothing else exists, which is mattaha, compared to me, which is parataram, which is beyond me, which is greater than me. There are two meanings here, but let's take this first meaning. In the first half he says, there is nothing that exists which is beyond me, which is greater than me, which means Ishvara is the source for the universe. That everyone likes to ask this question. If Ishvara created the universe, who created Ishvara? Everyone asks that question, and it's a valid question. If Ishvara created the universe, who created Ishvara? There's a defect in that logic, though. If someone created Ishvara, then the Ishvara who's created is not Ishvara anyway. Our definition of Ishvara is the ultimate source, not an intermediate source. So if the Ishvara who created this universe is an intermediate Ishvara created by someone else, that Ishvara is not Ishvara, but rather Ishvara for us is the ultimate source, the one, and that's what Sri Krishna is saying here, the one beyond whom, mattaha, beyond me, Sri Krishna says, na asti, nothing exists, parataram, beyond me, superior to me, greater than me. There is no creator of the creator. And that's bad logic anyway, right? You get into that endless loop. If creator has a creator, if creator one has if creator zero has a creator one, then creator one has a creator two, has a creator three, has a creator four, so you end up being indefinite, and that's considered a flaw in logic. So our use of the word Ishvara or God is not an intermediate being, but the ultimate source of all, and that's what Sri Krishna is saying here. Mattaha, other than me, parataram, anything that is beyond me, anything that is superior to me, anything that is greater than me, na anyat kinchit. There is nothing else greater than me, superior to me. There's another interpretation here, which is significant. Madhusudana Saraswati, in his commentary, he gives another meaning which is equally correct and equally powerful. So, anyat, parataram anyat, something other than, something greater than, he takes it as very narrowly as something other than me. So you've already understood, there's nothing greater than Ishvara. That's the normal translation. This Madhusudana's idea here is not greater than me, but other than me. Nothing other than me exists. This is an alternate interpretation. Nothing greater than me exists. There's no creator for the creator. Second meaning, nothing other than me exists. Go back to the dream example. Other than the dreamer, is there anything else that exists? Everything is a manifestation of the dreamer himself or herself. Nothing other than the dreamer exists. All this is the dreamer. Only the dreamer exists. All this is Ishvara. Only Ishvara exists. Chandogya Upanishad famously says, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. Sarvamidam, this entire universe, Kalu, indeed, is nothing but Brahma, reality, Ishvara. There is only, Puja Swamiji is famous for this statement. He said, and try to get his exact words. He says, in Hinduism, it's not quite true that there's one God. He says, Hinduism teaches that there is only God. One God is the teaching of monotheism. There is one God who created the universe out of nothing, as we said at the beginning. And that's not what this tradition teaches. Not that there is one God, but rather there is only God. That's what he says in the first half. Mattaha parataram nanyat kinchit asti. There is nothing other than me. There's nothing greater than me. I have no creator, Sri Krishna says. Alternatively, there is nothing other than me. There is only Ishvara. Not one Ishvara, only Ishvara. Dhananjaya, O Arjuna, you should understand this. And he ends with one more metaphor. How many metaphors have we seen already? We had the pot maker, we had the spider, we had the dream. Now we have one more metaphor that Sri Krishna says. He says, Mayi, upon me, sarvamidam, this entire world, is protam, literally strung, woven. The entire world is woven on me. How? Eva, just like manigana, just like maniganaha, just like a bunch of gems are strung sutre on a thread. So just as beads are strung on a thread, in the same way, the universe is strung on me, Sri Krishna says. So the thread holds all the beads together. Sri Krishna says, I am the equivalent of that thread. I hold the universe together. I am to paraphrase, I am the underlying reality because of which the universe exists. Without the thread, this mala could not exist, and without Ishvara, the universe could not exist. Ishvara is that underlying reality in this metaphor. Is this metaphor defective? Yeah. Every metaphor is defective. So what is the defect of this metaphor? Is the string and beads, is the string separate from the beads? So notice the beads are on the thread, which is good. The universe is non-separate from Ishvara, but the thread is separate from the beads. And that's not our understanding. Ishvara is non-separate from the universe. Universe is non-separate from Ishvara. That's why we went with the dream metaphor, which was also defective because the universe isn't a dream. But you can see, just a final comment here, you can see the sophistication of these teachings in using various metaphors to gradually lead you to a very profound understanding. This is an aspect of the teachings of Vedanta which, in my opinion, is very much underappreciated. And that is, what makes these teachings uniquely powerful is not what they teach, but how they teach. The methodology, and what we're seeing here in this use of several metaphors, it's a brilliant application of this sophisticated methodology to lead us step by step by step to have a very deep and profound understanding of who and what is Ishvara and what is the relationship of the world to Ishvara. And that is exactly the subject of the coming verses. So in the coming verses, we'll see what is the relationship of the universe to Ishvara as understood through these teachings of Sri Krishna, as understood through the teachings of Vedanta. So we'll see that in our next class, and we'll conclude here with our brief prayers at the altar. Om Gananahan Tva Ganapatigam Habamahe Kaving Gavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspataha Nashrinvan Utabasira Saranam Mahaganapataye Namaha Ishvaro Gururhatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat.